On Tuesday, the 1st of March, the Sydney Stock Exchange celebrated International Women's Day 2022 with a hybrid event attended by many committed and dedicated distinguished guests. The Sydney Stock Exchange was the first of 91 exchanges around the world who were ringing the bell for gender equality. The morning event featured a panel of speakers who were later described as invigorating and energising, thought-provoking and insightful. It was described as one of the most genuine International Women's Day events, leaving guests feeling truly inspired and motivated to continue the mission towards greater gender equality. In this short video, we capture the highlights of the events and ask that you share this with your colleagues, friends and families to help continue this incredibly important conversation. Welcome everybody. This is Cindy Nicholson from Braintree. I'm joined here with Michael Goh, the Sydney Stock Exchange CEO. We're here to celebrate International Women's Day today. We're going to have a room full of people and an amazing panel, and we're here to talk about gender equality for a sustainable future. Michael.
Yeah, welcome everyone. It's a great day. The Sydney Stock Exchange, in partnership with Braintree and the UN International Women's Day Committee, are proud to host this day. We do believe that supporting the SMEs and high growth companies is important. We do this, we think, by supporting gender diversity, which helps with profitability and risk management.
Hi, my name is Kylie Porter and I am the Executive Director of the UN Global Compact Network Australia, the Australian local network of the UN Global Compact, which is the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative. Gender equality is important to us because it is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, which are core to the UN's Sustainable Development Agenda for 2030. And not only that, gender equality and empowering women and girls is good for business. At the UN Global Compact Network Australia, we connect, enable and lead Australian businesses to create a sustainable future by acting responsibly and finding opportunities to impact our world for good. Our partnership with the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative is part of our ongoing commitment to support the private sector in their efforts to achieve the SDGs by 2030, particularly Goal 5 to achieve gender equality and empower women and girls. With just 8 years left to achieve the Sustainable Development Agenda, businesses globally are integrating the SDGs and key principles of responsible business into their strategies and operations, including SDG 5. This is our decade to deliver. Today's Ring the Bell initiative is a fantastic opportunity to connect one and all with most of the pressing issues of our time, gender equality. I wish you all an enjoyable event and a thought-provoking conversation. We look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you.
I'm Katie McGrath, Chief People and Culture Officer at 7 West Media. Gender equality matters because it's a basic human right. At the current rate, it'll take Australia 135 years to achieve gender equality. That is not acceptable.
Hi, my name is Nogga Edelstein and I'm entrepreneur in residence at Tractor Ventures. We provide revenue-based financing alternatives for founders. Less than 3% of venture funding globally goes to women-led startups. And one of the main challenges is access to capital. I believe we need more women making investment decisions. At Tractor Ventures, we have a majority of our co-founders are female, and it flows through because a third of the companies we have funded also have a woman in the founding team. If I can have an ask of you today, please ask your daughters, granddaughters, encourage them to study STEM and consider entrepreneurship as a career path, because there's no greater way to gender equality than having more women be their own boss.
Hi, my name is Jem Rummel from Quit Nukes and the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons Australia. Our goal is to end nuclear weapons, and we see this as critical for gender equality. Nuclear weapons disproportionately impact women and girls, and the threat of nuclear war undermines everyone's work for gender equality and a better world. To address this issue, we're working with Australian financial institutions, in particular super funds, to end investments in nuclear weapons producing companies. Nuclear weapons are now illegal under international law and they have no legitimate role in our world. We know that withdrawing finance from nuclear weapons producers is a meaningful contribution to achieving nuclear disarmament and peace. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sherry Chen, the General Manager of AHP Blue. I'm lucky in a relatively gender-equal society that gives me the opportunity to achieve what I want to be, rather than having it determined by my gender. Our company also embraces diversity and values the important role of women in the workplace and in life. I hope all of us could be what we want to be, rather than what society assigns women to be.
Formality of opening the market, I'd like to call Simone Clark up and ask her to ring the bell to get proceedings underway and to ceremonially open the market for International Women's Day. So Simone, if you could do the honours, please.
Thanks so much. I'm absolutely delighted to be here as the CEO of UN Women Australia. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Changing Climates, Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. And I know that all of you in the room are absolutely committed to an equal and sustainable future. So I'm delighted to be here. You're going to hear a lot from the panel. And thank you so much for joining us on what is really quite an awful day this year.
In your expert opinion, how long do you think it's going to take to achieve gender equality? Well. Not being an expert, but I will refer to WEF. In the most recent gender gap report, current estimates are that gender equality is almost actually more than 135 years away, which is pretty disappointing. And for those of you in the room who share my impatience for that, I would encourage us all to act sooner and try to also address some of the challenges that COVID has set us as well, because we've also seen that gender equality gap go back to the tune of a decade over the last 2 years. So the news is not good, but the will is there. So I'm hoping that with more conversations like these, we can advance gender equality both in Australia and across the globe. Thanks, Yvonne. And what do you see as the biggest barriers to gender equality in Australia and globally?
So there are a few. Fundamentally, the 4 areas that UN Women call out in terms of gender equality are these. The first is that we need greater financial empowerment of women. We need more women actively involved in the economy, and really we can see the value and the benefit of that. So we need all of you to help us get involved in that and help more women get into those positions where they can actually be educated in finance, STEM and other areas to really lift that financial capability and empower women to be full participants in the global economy. So that's the first thing. Secondly, we absolutely need to address violence against women. Wherever it happens, in the workplace, at home, we know that that's a barrier to full participation for women.
It's a pretty damning statistic for us in this country and across the globe. But rest assured, no other country across the world has achieved gender equality. So unfortunately, we're not alone. The other thing that we also need is greater representation of women in government. And that is something that we work on. And in this year, if no other year, think about your election, think about who you're voting for, and encourage women that you know to get involved in public life. We realise there are many barriers to that, not least of all caring, looking after families, careers. But again, we need more women at the decision-making table. We need policies for women. And finally, and something that's probably unfortunately super relevant at the moment, is conflicts, natural disasters, and the impact on women. We know when they hit. The Ukraine currently, the recent disaster in Tonga, that women are disproportionately affected by disasters. So again, they bear the brunt of caring for, ensuring livelihoods. So we need to look at the impact of climate change on women, wherever they are, to ensure that their livelihoods continue and they're not under threat. So that's sort of 4 key barriers that really, unfortunately, confront all women in terms of gender equality, but also confront men. This is not just about women. This is about all of us, because with greater participation, with greater equality, everyone benefits. Communities benefit. Economies benefit. I'll leave it at that. I think I've run over my time. Sorry.
Perfect, Simone. Well, look, I just want to follow on from that theme and maybe just jump it around on the panel a little bit and go to Claire. That's okay. Claire, just picking up on Simone's comment around how long it will take to achieve gender equality, what role do you think money can play in achieving gender equality?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Money plays a massive role. I was thinking Cindy Lauper said money changes everything, and I think it absolutely does. So a lot of the things where we identify where women are experiencing inequality and persistent inequality, finance is needed to provide some of these solutions, whether it's around education, whether it's around housing, whether it's around childcare. Allocating that money needs to happen. And so I think as we get more women in positions of power, they are potentially better at identifying and prioritising where money is allocated. So I think it can completely change everything. And I think at the individual level, if you think about women and their relationship with money, that can change lives as well. So we know that investing in women can change family lives. It can also increase the life expectancy of children. That children are less likely to die in poor countries if a woman has control of her finances. So it also changes everything there as well. At the individual level, when you get down to women and their own money, it's really 2 different stories. There's women that are completely out of the financial markets, as in can't even receive money for the work they do. And then there's women like us in the room who are in a really different financial position. So it is complicated, but I think, it can change and make a lot of positive in the long run.
Do you think that's actually getting better or worse in terms of that global finance and on a global scale?
I think on a global scale, it's getting better. Talking about women in positions of power, we've had a female head of the International Monetary Fund, female head of the World Bank. That really does change things. Like, they are just massive positions. I think our highest, Australia, Shamara Shakori. Yeah. And these are just like some of them, but that really does make a difference at that top level. All the concerted effort to get women up into finance, these programs at school. So I think it is getting better, but then we'll get to with yours around the VC. Like, a lot of money still goes to male startups in the VC world, and it's actually kind of like, I think there's a super depressing stat about like 98% of funding goes to men. There are some women entering that, trying to change that, but that means money's going to sort of probably more likely to be male ideas. And so, yeah, there's still improvements along the system that need to be made.
Absolutely, thank you. Michael, I might just move on to you with carrying on with that theme. In all of this, gender diversity, just like Helen mentioned, around in capital markets, what do you think, what are your views around that in capital markets?
Well, in capital markets, it's definitely improving and it's changing over the years. It has changed. Although what you do tend to see is a lot of females in sales roles versus trading roles versus structuring roles versus some of the deal making team roles or leading them. You might see a leader of a team, but You may not see a head of capital markets or a head of institutional markets or whatever. So there's definitely room for improvement. There's room to change. So it's about equaling the mix. Statistics may lie because, again, we may see, some women in junior positions that might be more administrative or non-analytical or the like. So what I think needs to happen is there's a rebalance of the kinds of roles and the seniority of these roles in terms of the gender mix.
Have you observed any changes in regards to that in your experience?
Well, I might say that I'm a little old. I've been around the markets for a fair while, so yes, I've seen quite a bit of change. So actually having more gender diversity within capital markets groups and across businesses is great. But as I said, it's that gender mix and the level of responsibility, accountability, and strategic fit that needs to change. So, that's the simple bottom line of it. And it may start at high school, may be at university, but then that will come up in terms of a generational change and a generational mix, in my opinion.
Nada, you've observed these challenges firsthand with female founders and what we do to support them. How does gender bias impact women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so the gender gap in entrepreneurship is largely around access to capital. And so you're right, there's a very impressive stat. The latest in Australia is that 4% of VC funding goes to solely female founders. The balance goes to male founders and a small percentage goes to mixed founders. And, one of the big problems with this is that when women aren't running their own businesses, they're not creating their own wealth, they're not creating their own employment opportunities, and they're inevitably having to earn less money working for someone else. And the reason that there's this inequality in the capital allocation is there's a few structural reasons for it. Most investors are men, right? Like generally when you're pitching for funding as a founder, it's rooms of middle-aged white men. No offense to anybody. But a lot of that's because of networks. So when we raise money, we go to relationships that we've had over time, or we ask for introductions. And typically, because most investors are male, those networks are formed at school, at university, in the workplace. Women step out of the workplace for a while, so they don't have that same ability to connect and make, networks with the decision makers who have the money to fund them. Another part of it is that women try to solve problems often that affect them. And so, when you invest in something, you connect with a problem or an idea, and when there's mainly male investors, they often don't see the potential in some of these business opportunities. I mean, I definitely saw that pitching a home service business to rooms of middle-aged men. I mean, I would get like, what, you have to juggle work and family and you have to find a cleaner, so what, right? Whereas when you tell women that problem, it's a very different response. And so, yeah, there's gender inequality in entrepreneurship is very much around how do we ensure more women can get funded to grow and scale their own businesses.
Thanks for sharing those insights. It's really quite scary that it's only 4%. That's quite tragic. So, we highlight the problems there, but what are the sort of things that could be done to improve that in the startup ecosystem?
Yeah. There's a few things that need to happen. The first, and this has been touched on by all of the panelists here, is we need more women studying STEM subjects. So the stat at the moment is that only 25%, I think, of STEM students are female. And the consequence of this is we don't have as much women in senior roles doing analytics, things like that, but also in the startup ecosystem. If you're not a tech founder, it's much, much harder to raise money because you have to rely on somebody else to build your technology, and that is not as attractive a proposition to investors. We need more women making investment decisions. So as we've touched on already, when you're trying to pitch a problem that affects women or that relates to women, you need more diversity of viewpoints when you're making that view. And then we need networks. So we need role models. You can't be what you can't see. So we need more women to be visible in entrepreneurship roles. I've actually spent this last year with a program called the Accelerator for Enterprising Women, where we've travelled to all the universities around Australia. Some ended up virtual, sadly, this year, but we presented to 18 to 24-year-old girls to encourage them to consider entrepreneurship as a career path. And a lot of that was around normalising entrepreneurship and showing them people who have done it before, and having panels like this talking about, you know, these women that have built their own businesses or have these incredible careers in STEM. And so those are a few things that I think over time will impact, because I've been working in this space a while and these stats haven't moved. And so teaching women how to raise money, teaching them to pitch to male investors, those things aren't moving the needle. I think there's some real structural changes that need to happen.
Can I just make a comment about that? So one of the things for me is that old school, right, a woman going into pitch to a bunch of old men like myself, right? Some of them feel they need to talk, walk, and act like a man, right? You don't, and so that's one of the fundamental roadblocks to change, is that you don't need to, and we shouldn't accept that. So I shouldn't be looking for someone who acts a particular way because, gee, that person's faulty, or whatever terminology, you know, is used. And I know some of it's not appropriate in the markets. We know that. So the terminology and the way in which we expect people to come to us that should be in their own way with a valid proposition in a gender diverse manner, as opposed to what I want to see as a guide. If that makes sense. Okay, so really it's an attitude thing, and again, hopefully part of this will help.
Thanks for sharing that, Michael. And actually, Noga, on your comments there, we do actually have somebody in the room who has really grabbed our attention today, and her name is Anvita. Yeah. And she's actually, did you want to step forward, Anvita? So Anvita is actually a year 10 student, but she has a remarkable track record already. So I'm just relating this back to the work that Noga's doing in helping young women really excel in their careers and become entrepreneurs. So just a little bit about Anvita. She's Forbes 30 under 30, so she was featured at the age of 10 in Forbes. She's also the Standard Women in Data Science Ambassador. And next week, she's actually hosting an International Women's Day event with a panel of 5 female leaders in STEM to inspire young girls to be more involved and lead in this space. That's absolutely brilliant. Well done. And that doesn't stop there. She's the founder of Buds Leaders, through which she aspires to empower the young generation to dream big, take action, and contribute positively to the world. So I just want to say a huge congratulations to you, because you are a shining example of what we all in this room is trying to create amongst our future females. So congratulations, and I wish you all the best for your panel as well next week. Well done.
Thank you so much for having me. So thank you so much for having me here. I think it's great to be in this room with so many accomplished leaders, and I'm looking to always learn more and bring more to my community of young people as well. And I'm looking to really drive initiatives and bringing your expertise to young people and really get them to be motivated and drive a great impact. So thank you so much. And yeah, looking forward to it.